Okay, hi everybody. My name is John BENOIT. I'm out here in the back of where I live by the lake. It's cold out. To remind myself of where I was 2 years ago, walking the streets with a backpack, looking for a place to get warm. I don't want to forget that. Anyway, let me start from the beginning. I come before you, Father God, our Lord Christ Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. Father, I ask that you speak through me, that you speak the truth through me, Lord. So, what is this? Hold on, I can't see. Okay. Alright, so, I came from a family of 10 children. I was around the middle child. So growing up, it wasn't, there were good times and there were a lot of bad times. My father was kind of, and I don't play the blame game because he got, he could only transmit what he had. But, early on, he was very negative towards us. And then at times he was very good to us. So it's kind of confusing. I remember being a little kid, about 7 years old, and I remember my dad sticking my brother Mark's face in dog shit because he didn't clean it up. And having a son myself, I can't imagine ever doing that to your own son, And, my father was an athlete, and I wasn't into sports as a kid. And, I used to always wonder why he never came to my games and stuff. And so anyway, so I hit the age about 12, and I think I was in the 7th grade, and I started, I don't know, maybe 3 times a week I would get $1.25 to get a quart of wine or something. And I think the main reason I did this was there were 3 girls that I really liked, and I never had the courage to approach the opposite sex without a drink in my hands. I was a shy kid. I was kind of insecure, and but they caught on to me very quick. Every one of them, all 3 of them, used to say to me, "You only come see me when you're drinking." And but anyway, by the time I graduated from the 8th grade, of course, a bunch of us got drunk before the graduation. I got a grandson that's in the 7th grade now, and I look at him and I can't imagine, kid that age walking around with a quart of wine in his hand, And then on the weekend, it was, everyone chipped in for cases of beer and stuff. So anyway, I hit the age of about 12, 13. So I graduated. No, let me. That's when I had my accident. 13 years old. We stole the case of beer out of a car, and we got chased up a hill, and we had to jump over the side. And when I let go and jumped, they were using a piece of rebar. It's a metal rigid bar. They were using it for a tomato stand or whatever. And I landed on it, and it entered the perineal. I don't know if people probably don't know where that area is. It's the area under the scrotum, between the rectum and the scrotum. It's called the perineal area. It went up into there and came out the side of my stomach. And I was impaled on it, and I had out-of-body experience. I was up, and I was looking at myself on the ground, and I was saying, just leave me there, I'm dead, I thought I was dead. And anyway, I survived that, and I had multiple surgeries over the years, and the last few that I had, that's later in life, but the surgeries made things worse for me. They tried to fix, it's nothing but nerve and muscle in that area. And it's not an area where you really want to have pain constantly. It's hard to sit, constantly burning. It's not a good feeling. Anyway, that's it. So, 13, okay, I had my, that was about when I had my first awakening, and I had it by myself, it's just a joke. I was standing on the corner, and this girl Pam walked by, and ordinarily I wouldn't really like this girl, but this day she had these hot pants on and some high heel shoes and a halter top, and I was hitting that age, and so I asked her if she wanted to take a walk. We took a walk, and that was my first sexual experience. And then when I was done, I just got up and left her, and it felt good, and I remember the first time I masturbated, I thought, when that stuff came out, I said, wow, what the hell was that? I was listening to someone's testimony today, but it kind of scared me, I said, what the hell, wow, is there something wrong with me? Did I do something wrong? But anyway, me and my brother, I was 13, he was a year older, and we were getting in trouble at the time. We were, let me get back to this other issue. I was playing Little League Baseball. I was 12, because that's your final age in Little League Baseball. This guy from a youth center had told me, we were down in the youth center one time, and he called me in the office, and he said, he kind of conned me. It was a con job. He said, look, hey, you want to make some money? I can get you a job modeling clothes for Sears. and you get to keep all the clothes, and you make so much money. I forget how much it was, but he says you can't tell anybody. He says, meet me Sunday at the park, and we'll go discuss it more. So, I had a ball game that day, and I had my Little League uniform on, and so I met him. It was before the game, and it was in the morning I met him, and so he says, well, let's go to my house. So we went to his house, and he said, they want some pictures of you, so he took some pictures and stuff. And then he said, they want some pictures of you nude, And so I'm still not thinking, because at that time I used to play hockey and I showered with kids and stuff, so I didn't really have a problem taking my clothes off at that time, long as nothing was really happening yet. And so he got me to take my clothes off, and then he got me to lay on the bed, and he said, they want a picture of you with an erection. And I said, I can't get one. And he said, well, why don't I try? And he grabbed me, and I immediately said, I know. I said, no, this isn't right. I'm not going any further with this. And when I left that house, I remember walking down the hallway. It was the third floor, and going down. I remember thinking to myself, all the way down the stairs, what did I do something gay, or am I now gay? Because I let him touch me, and so, I wasn't going to tell my mom and dad, because my dad probably would have said it was my fault. So anyway, and then, the drinking, wait a minute, we were getting in trouble, me and my brother at that time, breaking into railroad trains and stealing stuff out the trains and stealing cars. And so they didn't know what to do with us, because it would put us in a foster home, and we would take off from the foster home. So finally they put him in a detention center here in Worcester, and they sent me out to one in Westfield. And I remember feeling really scared, because it was, and I'm not racist, I'm just saying it was all black kids, and I had never seen, up to this point in my life, I had never seen a black kid. And so I was very scared, and also I felt abandoned, I felt, where was my mom and dad, and I cried a lot, the only thing that helped me with the kids was the fact that when we went in the yard, I was good at sports, so when we played sports, football, baseball, basketball, I could compete with them, so they kind of took a liking to me. But anyway, got out of there and went right back to the corner. and just continued drinking and getting in trouble. And then, I went into the 9th grade in high school, and, at that time I was having all these feelings of anxiety and insecurity. So, I always had this fear of, there was these 2 girls that I really liked in high school. And, but I was so shy at the time. Every time that they would come to try and talk to me, they'd both come at the same time. And, I had a terrible fear of embarrassment when my face turned red. I hated that. And, so I just dropped out of high school, and so I was 15 and a half, and I dropped out of high school, and at that point, my father, me and my brother were drinking in this place called the Tot Lot. This little field-like type thing. And, he dropped our bags off and he said, have a nice life with your friends. And at that point, I was glad, because now I could drink the way I wanted to. I could drink with the older guys and stay out all night and drink all night long. And along with this drinking and drugging, let me also get into the other thing. With the woman, there was, compulsive. It started, as young age, it started compulsive masturbation and stuff, and so the booze and the woman went hand in hand, I drank to chase women, and I had no goals in life at all. The only goals I had were, to be a local rock band, because, I saw other guys that I knew, that lived in the neighborhood, and threw some parties. I saw that they had the best girlfriends. They had, they got the, free drugs from people and drinks and stuff. So that looked like something I wanted to do, and so I set out to do it. And it's later in my story that happened. But my relationships with women were just, I used them selfishly, and for my own pleasure. And when I was done, I was gone. Other than the girl that I fell in love with, I had one girlfriend from the age of 14 to 17. That I really truly loved, and she broke my heart, and but again I turned to the bottle, and all this time what I was doing was I was shutting down emotionally, and I didn't know it, so anyhow, so I'm on the streets and drinking, drugging, and then I met my friend Danny at the age somewhere around there, 15, 16, he came into the neighborhood, and he was kind of thrown out of his house as well, and so he hung with us, and there was a group of us that ran together, and we were all homeless, and back then it wasn't as bad as it was like the past before I got into this housing that I'm in now. Being homeless when you're young is a lot easier. And then back then in the 70s, everybody kind of looked out for each other, But anyhow, let me get to the filth of my story. That's what I will do. There was a girl, and my brother actually married her. She was in love with me, and my brother married her. And she was a virgin, and I took her virginity. And I remember as soon as I was done, I got up and said, I'm leaving, and she was crying. And I was going to another party, and she was chasing me down the street, and I had no feeling at all for her, I didn't care how she felt, and then I was to use her for several years, just for sex, There was a girl who came into the neighborhood. I remember her name. Her name was Sam. I don't think I'll ever find her. If I did, I would really like to make amends to her. But she came into the neighborhood, and she was at this bar, and she had the whole bar lined up behind the bar. There was a line, and she was offering blowjobs. And anyhow, a few days later, I don't want to mention names, because it's about cleaning my heart. But we took this girl into a cemetery, and she opened her legs for us and stuff, and it wasn't pretty, and I remember throwing sand at it because it was greenish, and she had something wrong with her. And then a couple days later, she was in that tot lot that I spoke about, and we had a dog over there, and I told her to blow the dog, and she did, and and I'm urinating on her while she's doing this and laughing, and a lot of this stuff was, because I wanted to be known as the craziest guy in the neighborhood, and deep inside I was frightened as hell, but I never felt anything from the time I picked up a drink and drug at the age of 12. I just shut down at that point emotionally and blocked every feeling that I ever had. I just blocked it all out. And, I had no emotions. So the poor girl, I pray for her today. I prayed for her for many years, actually. You know, when I stole from people, back in them days, you know, after the people in the neighborhoods get sick of us, you know, a crowd of us, me, Danny, and Jimmy, and Franny, and the Savage, after they get sick of us, you know, we had to start stealing and doing this kind of stuff to feed our habit. And anyway, I was playing in a band and, you know, living in a dream world, you know, a fantasy world, you know, playing a part, and but it was a lot of fun. It really was a lot of fun, if you want to call it fun. It was craziness. You know, we'd be playing, and between breaks, I would be outside in a van shooting cocaine, and I'd come back in, and it'd be, you know, double shots of whiskey on the stage, beers, and afterwards there was always an afterward party that went for, you know, sometimes it went for days. You know, we never slept, we just never ate, we just partied. That's what we did. And you know, we partied, and we did what we had to do. So anyway, you know, I never had any, I never developed any good, healthy relationships other than that short time that I spent with the girl that I loved. So anyway, one night we were playing in a club, and a friend of my the manager, she and I were in first grade together, and he knew her, and he brought her down to see us, and so we jumped in a car afterwards to go to a party, and you know, she grabbed me by the hand. She was in the front seat in the middle, and I was in the passenger seat. She grabbed me by the hand, and I don't know what she saw in me, because I had nothing going for me. I was living in my manager's van at the time, you know, and I was basically a Skid Row drunk, and a full-blown addict, you know. I took everything there was to take, you know. If you put it in front of me, I took it, you know. And but anyway, let me get into so she had an apartment, a car, a job, and you know, for me, I'd say that was like hitting the lottery for me. That was my thinking at the time, and I can remember, you know, when my daughter was born, you know, and I was coming off a vicious bender, and I was so sick, and I had to go up to the hospital with her, and she's in pain, she's in, you know, labor, and I'm complaining that, you know, oh, I'm sick, I gotta go home, you know, I'm sick, honey, and I stayed for the birth, and then I went home. But anyway, no, before that happened, again, I woke up one morning, and her grandmother and her two aunts were in my bedroom, and this was literally a shotgun wedding. I woke up and they saying, we talked to Father Foley and we have the church all set and we got the hall all set. So you guys set a wedding date soon. Because they were strict Catholic and they wanted their granddaughter to be married in the church, and they wanted her to, be married before she had the baby. My thinking at the time was sounds like a good time to me, I had no right being in that marriage, really. So she had the baby, and then for 3 years I put her through hell, chasing me down in bar rooms, and, I was out, cheating, and lying, and, I'd say I'm going out for cigarettes or bread, and I'd be gone for 2 weeks, and then, I'd come back home crying, would you please take me back? I don't want my daughter to grow up without her father. Anyway, I'll jump over to my last night of drinking and drugging. In the early afternoon that day, I had been up all the night before, and I was in back of this bar room that we all hung at, called the Grand Club, and I remember using puddle water to mix up my cocaine in a spoon because that's all I had, and so that night I ended up at a friend of mine's, and Dan knows him, Gary, and his brother, and the other guitarist in the band, Franny. That night, that point, Gary was selling cocaine, and we were just doing shot after shot after shot, and finally, Franny said, "Screw this, I'm loading the whole syringe up, put a gram in this spoon," and so he did, and I did, and he went down on the bed and turned blue, and I thought he was dead. I left. I went running out of the house, and I ran around the cemetery trying to come down before I went home, and tried to get back in the house again, once again. Anyway, what I brought into that marriage was, at the wedding. Well, let me tell you a story. The night before the wedding, we had a bachelor party. It was at my apartment in a 3-decker, and they had the women's party in a 3-decker next door, and we had a few kegs of beer and a whole bunch of cocaine, and they brought up a couple hookers, and I was in the room with 2 of them, and my wife and one other girl knocked at the door, and I guess, I don't know how they got rid of them, but thank God they did, because I probably wouldn't be here right now. But anyway, again, the night before my wedding, here I am with 2 prostitutes, not even caring how my wife felt or anything like that, my future wife. So we stayed up all night drinking, doing coke. We put our tuxes on about 10 o'clock, On the way to the church, we stopped at the package store. I bought a pint of Southern Comfort to go into the back of the church with, and I drank that down before I went out, and I don't know how I was even standing, really. So I went out there, I got married. The words meant nothing to me because I had no feelings at the time. So I could say, at that time, my wife was just a place for me to live, someone to take care of me. And that was it. And the wedding day, same thing. We get to the hall, and I'm drinking shots and stuff, and I'm in and out of the bathroom doing lines, and and she's saying she never drank or drugged in her life. She didn't know what the hell. And she said, "What do you keep going to the bathroom for?" So I don't know. I get a weak bladder, I guess, whatever. But anyway, so we ended up in, after our honeymoon, we went to Maine where my parents were, way up in Calais. And so we ended up moving up there for about 3 months. And, it was so far into the woods. It was like 25 miles to the nearest store. My wife hated it. We were in this big house we were renting. It was an old Victorian house, and had about 8 rooms upstairs and downstairs. And so she came home to Worcester one weekend, and I had been drinking solidly for a couple of weeks, and then abruptly stopped on a Sunday night. And I was in that house, and all of a sudden, I hear this witch talking to me, and in the kitchen, and so I couldn't. I was frozen. I was frozen on the couch. I couldn't get up because I was scared, and I finally got the courage up and just booked out of the house. It was a snowstorm, and I ended up in my father's house. And I said, "Dad, there's a witch in that house." And he said, "You son of a bitch, you're having the DTs." And so he gave me something to drink. And but anyway, that's nothing. She came back, and we came back to Worcester. And like I said, that last night of my last night of drinking was when Franny had gone down. I was 24 years old, and I hated my life. I hated myself, what I'd become. I hated the track marks in my arms that I had to look at every day. I hated that I had become a scumbag. So I tried. I knew that I wanted to get sober, and I knew that the only way I was going to stay sober was getting on my knees and asking God to help me, and I did that. And I did that every day, and I thanked Him at night, and I went to AA meetings, and and a lot of good things happened to me during those 20 years I stayed sober. But let me tell you about the deceitfulness and the stuff that I took into that marriage that carried into it. The compulsive masturbation, always looking at other women, wanting other women. I was a womanizer, you know. And a lot of that was to just to feed my insecurities and my ego, and you know, early on in my marriage, you know, I was running up to Main Street and getting prostitutes, and you know, I wouldn't have sex with them because I was afraid to bring a disease home to my wife, and but I would have them just pose, you know, kind of pose for me, and you know, I would just take care of myself. And eventually, one day, it did lead to, I let a girl, I don't know, give me a, I don't want to be graphic, let's call it oral sex. So, and you know, and it was that I was running the Main Street getting prostitutes, and but I'd go home and I would feel like a piece of shit, you know, the lies, the deceit, you know, and at that time we also had a babysitter. She was 16 years old, and she developed a crush on me, and because me and my wife saw it. She wrote it in she carved it into one of our wooden chairs. She wrote, "I love JB," and my wife saw it one day, and she was kind of shocked. But there was one day I came home from work early, and I had a bad sunburn, and my wife wasn't home at the time, and the babysitter was there, and the baby was sleeping, and so I had a bad sunburn, and she came into the bedroom, and I asked her if she would put some cream on my back, and she did, you know, and it felt good, and I was tempted to, but I didn't, you know, but I still felt like shit about it, you know, because I was, you know, here I was praying to God, and I was going to AA meetings, and but I didn't change. I didn't get it. I wasn't getting into the Word. All I was doing basically was staying sober. I got into gambling. It started with the dog track. You know, I would go down the dog track, and you know, she would allow me. Sometimes I'd go with my brother Jim and another friend Chiru, and but you know, a lot of times on the way home from there, I would go up to Main Street and grab a prostitute, and you know, at this time, after I had the oral sex with the other one, now I'm letting them do that now. I'm getting riskier, my behavior. You know, and this girl was so faithful. You know, she would have bent over backwards for me. And here I am, cheating, lying, you know. But in spite of all of this stuff, a lot of good things happened in my life during those 20 years of sobriety. For some reason, I ended up I stopped going up to Main Street. We bought our first house. It was the house I grew up in. And off of that, I bought a 3-family, and I redid that. And then we bought a house on the lake in Charlton, and we moved out to Charlton. I think my son was 7 years old, or 6, something like that. And I already testified, to what the years, the fun that I had with my son and all of that. And the womanizing never stopped. The lusting, that always stayed with me through the whole marriage, and I was thinking about it, and that she never knew, and she was a gem. My wife was a gem, and if I could make amends to her, and sit down and talk with her, I would give the world to be with that woman today. That was the greatest gift God ever gave me, and I was not ready to receive it. So anyway, when I moved to Charlton, started going to casino gambling, and that just turned into another compulsion, and it replaced the drinking for me. It had everything that I wanted down there: the excitement, the action, the woman. It was just another form of escape for me, escape from John, and so I started sneaking down there. I'd say I'm working and I'm down there, then I started spending money that I shouldn't be spending, her money, my money, so after 20 years, this is what happened. My wife went to the beach with my mother for a week, up to Old Orchard Beach, and she took the kids, and I was home by myself, and they left on a Saturday morning, and there was $3,700 in the bank, and by the time she got to the ATM, I don't know if it was Saturday night or Sunday morning, but it was one of them, there was nothing left. I had lost it all down the casino. No, actually I didn't lose it. I did lose it, and then I won it back. And but I said to myself at that point, see, I was running my life on self-will, on my, doing things my way, at this point, because I stopped, 15 years into my sobriety. Once I found the casino, I stopped praying, I stopped getting on my knees, I stopped going to meetings, so I had no support system, and so that day, I knew she had already known about the money missing, and I knew that she was going to be very, very upset, because I had done this many times before, and she would always take me back and forgive me, and And I always said, oh, she knows what kind. She knows I'm just an idiot. And, I do things that I screw up once in a while. But this time I knew it was going to be the end of my marriage. So I didn't even go home. I went to the bar where I used to hang around. And there was a few guys left down there. And it was Ralph and my nephew Boomer, who's now dead due to drugs and alcohol, and Pip, so anyway, we drank till the bar closed, and then we went over to Pip's yard that night, and again they got a couple prostitutes, and they introduced me to crack cocaine. It wasn't around when I quit 20 years before that. It was just regular cocaine. So I kept giving them money. I kept giving them $100 bills left and right. And, the sun was coming up, and it was like 8 in the morning. I don't know, 7, 8 in the morning. And so I went, my friend Ralph said, come with me. So we went over to the cemetery, and he must have loaded that pipe up for me, because I took that hit, and my ears and my head felt like it was going to pop off. And I got out of the car, and I actually saw my body, and Ralph would testify to this. He was holding me up, and I was calling myself back, saying, don't go, John, don't go. Don't go. And I think if he didn't put me under the faucet, I don't know if I would have died or what would have happened, but that was a weird experience. And it was real. It wasn't a hallucination. But anyway, so now I'm back. The dog has returned to his own vomit, right? As they say. So now I'm back. I'm out of my house. I'm out on the streets again. Here I am, 44 years old. I had a union job that I lost, a floor covering job. So I'm at the house, and I would think it was about a month later, I went back to get my stuff, and there was a bunch of medications that I had, and I took them all, and in an attempt to kill myself, and I ended up in a coma, and on a breathing tube, and I came out of that, and then from there it was like every month, right? Now I became just, I didn't totally lose the job. I went out on disability because my knees were getting bad, and but anyway, long story short, I started, when I was homicidal, I wanted to kill her. I wanted to kill her. I had a feeling that she was with somebody. I wasn't sure. So I used to walk over and spy. And one day I saw this guy's van over there. And I was livid. I mean, I don't know if anybody knows that feeling of rage. I was with my wife for 27 years, and we had a lot of good memories together. We did. I mean, in spite of my my sinful ways and my filth. We had a lot of good times together as well. I'm not saying it was all bad. I had periods of when I was doing good, and we went on vacations all the time and stuff. But anyway, so now I'm back out on the streets, and so I'm homicidal, and in my head I'm wanting to kill her, and I'm saying to myself, and this is sick, I'm saying to myself, how can I get back at her? My daughter was getting married at the time, and I had to leave that wedding like right after I danced with my daughter, because I tried to talk to her, and I knew it was going to be an argument, and I left. And at that point, I figured she was with somebody. So I was thinking, I would kill her in front of the kids. I would kill the kids in front of her, and then kill myself. So it's homicidal, suicidal, and but every month, as soon as my check came in, I would go on a crack run, a drinking and crack run, and I would spend, $1,400-$1,500. It would be gone in 1-2 nights, and I'd be broke, my mother took me in. This is a story in itself too. This poor woman. My mother had lost 3 kids to suicide. 2 of them were 3 months apart, and she was so sick from stress that her whole body was covered with welts, open sores, her whole entire body. So they shipped her to Boston, and they had to wrap her in this like foil, and with different creams and stuff, and but it took a long time for her to heal, and so now 10 years after losing those kids, now I'm back at it, and here I am. I'm in and out of that intensive care unit, like people go in and out of Walmart, every 3 months. They get a call, John's in the intensive care unit on a breathing machine, or John's in a coma, and it was one night I was living with my mother, and I stole her debit card. I heard her say earlier in the day her debit card number, and I waited for her to go to sleep, and I stole the debit card, and I went out, and I spent $600 that night on crack, and my brothers, all of my brothers were looking for me, my nephews. If they had found me, they would have probably hurt me, but they didn't find me, and I ended up paying her back, but that's nothing. I put this poor woman through hell. She worked her entire life till the age of 75, and she retired. She was a full-figured, beautiful woman, and now for 15 years she's watching me Um, you know, every 3 months, I'm not kidding you when I say every 3 months, I would try to end my life. And I couldn't do it. God wasn't ready. Thank God He wasn't ready for me. My mother had she would send up a prayer team. She used to have a lady where they used to come up and have a Bible study at my mom's house. And so the lady who ran it, she would come up and pray over me with a bunch of other people. And I did a lot of damage to my body. It got so bad, I said to myself, all these times, and there were 40 to 50 suicide attempts in the 15 years. One of the times, I actually saw on the ID channel a wife had killed her husband drinking she would put antifreeze in their Gatorade, and back then they had no way of detecting it. So until they finally, they had to exhume the body on one of them, and they finally found out that's how they died. So I got the crazy idea in my head that I'm saying, I'm taking all these different kinds of drugs and, in tremendous amounts to try to kill myself. And all I ever do is end up in a coma and on a breathing machine, life support, and kidney failure, and sepsis, and pneumonias from the intubations. And my mother, I was breaking her down little by slow. And, the antifreeze, I went home one night and I pulled it out. And I remember I drank 6 teacups of antifreeze with a little milk so I could get it down. I had to hold my nose. And, but my mother, I remember, and I finally ended up in jail. I ended up in jail for a year. And I had never been to prison in my life, and I was 55 years old. And I had no idea how it operated, nothing. I was like a lost little kid in there. And so, I remember the phone calls, the only one who wrote to me was my mom, none of the friends, so-called friends, they didn't give a shit, None of them wrote to me, not in a year, none of them came to see me. But my poor mom, I remember the phone calls, and, she would be crying her eyes out, And then when I got out, after a year, and I went to my mom's house, and I was going into a program, Salvation Army. And when I got to my mom's, I have neurological brain damage. I know Dan and stuff doesn't care for medications, but when I got to my mom's, I was so, the whole family could tell that all those suicide attempts where I didn't get oxygen into my brain for sometimes it was a couple of days. I'd be laying on the floor until someone found me. So it was called neurological. They wrote it up, neurological brain damage caused by hypoxia. And I guess hypoxia is lack of oxygen to the brain. So when I got out of jail and I got home and I saw my mother, she was like a twig. I had broken her down so bad. She was as skinny as could be. And she died about 3 months after I got out of jail. And I was the last one to hold her, and before she closed her eyes. Thank God for that. And the phone calls, like I said, she would cry, and then I would start to cry, and but when I got out, like I said, everyone in the family knew that I had some serious problems mentally. I really did a number on my brain, my body. So today I take a couple medications because I have to. I wouldn't be able to function if I couldn't. My brain is really, really that messed up. I don't think you'd want to see me, Dan, without my medication. I'm telling you. I'm not kidding you. So when she saw me that way, I remember the first night I got out, I slept over, and I was up all night. My sister was talking to me. And then the next morning, my mom got up and we had coffee, and, I was gonzo. And I remember my mother breaking down in tears and walking into her bedroom, and she curled up into a ball. And she was dying at this time, And I remember I went in and I got on my knees and I said, Mama, it's going to be all right. I'll be all right, Mom. But I wasn't all right, and I had to go get help, and so I did, and but anyway, the behaviors. Okay, so for 15 years in Kenya, every month it was like 1,000 to 1,500 on crack. Every month for the last 15 years, and then I'd end up in an intensive care unit because I didn't want to live. Again, I got to the point where I hated myself, and my children and the ones that grew up with me sober, and they had to witness all this, and it's not a pretty sight to see someone on a life support. I saw it one time and it was scary, and so anyway, at this point in my life, so it was like hookers and crack every month for 15 years. I get arrested up on Main Street. I'm on the front page news for 37 arrested in Main South prostitution ring. And my name is first on the list because I go in alphabetical order. And then my addiction to sex and crack was like an aphrodisiac that fed that, So, and then after I got busted up there, and after I got out of prison, I had to kind of stop with the prostitutes. So then I just started doing the crack at home, and it was like it would like light a fire of intense sexual desire. Do a hit of crack, and we'll go right to that area, and it would start it fed the sexual addiction that I had my whole life and never knew it. So I guess I got hit with the whole ball game. I get the sex addiction, the alcohol addiction, the compulsive gambling, the trying to think of the other one, but anyway, yeah. So then I got into this thing online, and it would be girls, on messenger apps, coming out, and it was really freaky, like a small little circle, and they would have girls walking out of someone's face, and I don't know how they did it, but anyway, they would show all these little sex scenes going on in the background and stuff, and what they were trying to do was set me up for, because they started putting little children way in the back, and they were trying to set me up for something like that, and I would turn the camera away, and, but I was out of my mind, and I was,
How you doing down there?
Huh?
Watching more videos?
No, I'm talking, John.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Talk to people.
No,
Stay
get a cigarette.
Stay off that damn messenger.
Anyway, hey, I'm gonna continue this later. I got a friend of mine I gotta talk to. He's here. It's been nice talking to y'all, and I'll catch up with you later. Thanks a lot, and everybody have a great night. Okay? Shalom. Finish?